to Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. I am Prema Nagathan, Security Officer at Enterprise Bank, and with me today co-hosting is Ken Lavallee, Security Specialist at Enterprise Bank. We are very excited for another episode of Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. This is where we bring various guests to make our community members, such as you, aware of what's going on within our community as it pertains to protecting your finances and your personal information, mostly looking at some of the frauds and scams that are out there that we all need to be aware of. We have a returning guest today, Chris Novell. Thank you for coming back on our show, Chris.
Be back, thank you.
Our last show, I'm sure some of our viewers who had tuned in will remember. It was a great show. And today, unfortunately, because of just what's going on, there's a lot more things we need to talk about to make everyone aware. Chris, you're the intelligence analyst at the Commonwealth Fusion Center.
I'm one of many, but that's my job, yes.
And you do a great job. One of the things that we really value is the information that you send out to law enforcement and bank professionals such as us regarding fraud, scams that are impacting other financial institutions and various towns. This type of information sharing is so critical for our roles to be able to really know what's going on, who to look out for, types of schemes to look out for, so we can educate our customers and share that information with them. So thank you for everything that you do to keep us abreast of all this stuff that's going on.
Absolutely.
So next week is tax day, and people, I'm sure, are rushing in to get all your tax filings in. And Ken, with tax season, what does that remind you of?
Well, thank you for reminding me. I have to get my taxes done, but I'm behind the eight ball. But yes, you know, Prema and Chris, as you know, unfortunately, there are so many opportunities to steal money out there, and it's happening on a regular basis. We see it all the time. You see it, I see it, Prema sees it. And unfortunately, the tax season and the IRS scam is very prominent right now. And people are receiving messages, phone calls typically, from people, you know, alleging to be members of the IRS, you know, basically threatening you with arrest, threatening you with some type of prosecution if you don't pay immediately. And they strike fear into the hearts of the people who they contact. What are we seeing as far as that goes, Chris?
Well, I've received the calls. You've probably both received the calls too, and many of your viewers at home have probably seen the calls. What they're doing is they're automating these calls. They're not, in many cases, using their own voices. They are being able to transmit their voice over a recording, which kind of alters the way their voice sounds. And it's just as you said, they make accusations that you owe money in taxes, sometimes to the tune of $5,000 to $10,000, with that exact threat that either the local police or the IRS is going to come and arrest you. Now, technology today, the way it is, I mean, it's usually leaps and bounds ahead of what law enforcement can keep up with, but they can spoof telephone numbers to make it look like the call's coming from either the IRS in Washington, D.C. or your local police department. So people are easily convinced in some cases, and unfortunately, as you've experienced as well, we see tens and sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars that are lost every week somewhere around the country.
Right, right.
And if for some reason you really haven't paid your taxes, you're not getting a call, you're not getting a threatening message to say, send us gift cards, right? I mean, if you are not up to date with the IRS, what would be the typical response that people should expect?
Well, the IRS will send you a letter if you owe them taxes, and most people that owe taxes know that they owe taxes. If you're, if you're skating on your taxes a little bit, you don't pay it in full, or you think you're cheating a little bit, IRS is not going to call and threaten to arrest you. They're going to address it by phone, and you have to kind of come in and have an audit. So my suggestion is anything you get over the telephone from the IRS, or anybody for that matter, that's making a demand for funds, either directly monetarily or through, as you said, the use of gift cards. That seems to be the latest thing. Go to the store, get a gift card number, and then you make a phone call. You know, you might be buying a $500 or $1,000 gift card for iTunes or something like that. And as soon as you give that number over the phone, within minutes, that gift card is being used, and you're out that money.
Right, exactly. As a matter of fact, I just recall hearing a story about the Sheriff's Department here in Middlesex County they were sending out phone calls. People were receiving phone calls from the sheriff's department saying that you owed money in taxes, the IRS, we were coming to get you. So these law enforcement agencies, and they spoofed the number, so they actually saw the number for the sheriff's department, and they thought indeed it was legitimate, and of course it was not.
Right, right.
So now we're approaching the spring,
Yes.
and people are out there doing yard work and spiffing up their homes and maybe looking at driveways and various other improvements to their home. What are we seeing in terms of people being taken advantage of by those types of scams?
Every spring, as you know, we get out in our yard to try to freshen things up. And most of these groups that target anybody are usually targeting senior citizens. And you know, it's if you do it for a living, targeting senior citizens, you know what the signs and symptoms are. You might see a little bit of disrepair around the house. You might see somebody out in the front yard tending a garden. And it's very, very common for people to come up, especially out of the southern part of the country. They're called travelers, and they come up with their paving crews. Now, we have some local paving crews that are a little bit skeptical as well, but a lot of them will come up from down in Georgia and South Carolina. There's a community down there called Travelers Rest, and they will come up there and they will try to get you to either fix your home or they will pave your driveway. And I would just say, you know, the most important lesson to learn here is if somebody comes up to you and they say that they have some extra asphalt on their paving truck, that we can get you a good deal, send them away. And if you have to, call the police. At that point, no crime has been committed, but I guarantee you, if you think you're going to get a good deal on an asphalt driveway, especially up here in the New England area at the beginning of spring, these people are going to take advantage of you. They're going to misrepresent what the quote is, and they're going to intimidate you. I mean, I know you've had them in Lowell over the years. I investigated them myself, you know, my previous job. And these people are all over the place. So if they come and they say they want to do something, because if you give them the okay, within 5 minutes, that truck will be there with 5 or 6 workers, you know, throwing asphalt in your driveway, raking it down, rolling it, and then they'll come up with a bill for $6,000 to $10,000 for
So
half
it's
hour's
definitely
work.
not cheap, and they're probably doing a very shabby job.
Exactly.
They're
yeah.
not really experienced in that type of work.
If you want that kind of work done, you know, you're going to want to either get some different quotes on it or look for recommendations either through the Better Business Bureau, through the Yellow Pages, or things like that. People that tend to come up on the street with you and try to solicit you there, those are probably the ones you want to try to stay away from.
Sure.
And this actually happened to a couple of our customers last spring. And thankfully, in one case, our customer, she realized when the work started, she realized that this was not the norm. So she knew, but then she was intimidated by this individual at her doorstep, so she really didn't know what to do. She cut a check for $6,000 for work that was absolutely below substandard, made a mess out of her driveway. She probably had to hire someone to put in more extra dollars. But the one smart thing that she did was to call the bank as soon as that individual left her doorstep. She said, I didn't know, I was scared, I wanted to get him away. So I did write him a check, I signed the check, but I wanted to let you know. So that was a timely information to us. We were able to immediately put alerts and notifications to all our branches. Sure enough, 10 minutes from that call, that individual, that suspect, the scammer, was in one of our branches trying to cash a check, and there was a police officer waiting for him as well.
That's great. You know.
So even if it does happen, and one thing I want to get out to our customers and our community members is sometimes maybe it's not too late, call your bank, let them know what has happened, so we can still stop some of those funds
And
from
along the
being taken
same lines,
away.
we've had these contractors actually accompany the victims to the bank to withdraw the checks.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you'll see bank video of them, and you know, they're usually wearing their dirty T-shirt because they've been working with the asphalt. You know, my suggestion in this case and other cases is, if you have any question, as you call the bank or call the police department. Let them at least be aware of what's going on, because we're not naive as to the fact that that's a problem, especially this time of year. The people are out there doing these kind of scams, and you know, if we can get a police officer up in that area, generally there's either warrants for these people, or their trucks are unregistered, or they don't have licenses.
That's right. That's right.
And a variation to these home type of scams, I remember seeing something on one of your emails, Chris, and if you want to talk about that, is a distraction that they would use.
Very, very common, and this goes on year-round, actually, and there are people all over the country. They predominantly, at least the group that we're familiar with, they stay on the East Coast, and these are what we call gypsy diversion burglars, and their goal is to confront you at the front door. A lot of times they'll be wearing a yellow like a traffic vest that the police officers wear, the bright yellow. They could be wearing a lanyard. They could be wearing a hard hat. The lanyard could have a badge on it. So they do everything they can to look legitimate. And when they get to your front door, they're looking to get you, number one, away from the front door and in a place where you don't have access or a viewpoint of the bedroom. And they will tell you to either run the wash machine. They'll tell you that we have a water break down the street and we think your water's contaminated. There's a gas leak down the street. We want to make sure there's no gas in the house.
Yeah.
It could be a situation where they think that we're going to be doing some tree work or fence work out in the backyard. Can you come out in the backyards, show me where the property line is?
Yeah.
And as soon as you leave the area of your front door unlocked, somebody follows them in and goes down the bedroom. And whether it be a jewelry box, they got to check under your mattress. So, I mean, I know there are still people, they don't leave it in the Enterprise Bank. They leave money under their mattresses. If there's a safe, if the safe is under 100 pounds, they're going to carry the safe out. And we see it continually. We've identified a lot of these people. We had a real flurry of this activity back right around the beginning of the middle of January, right in this area, Dracut, Methuen, Andover, Wilmington, up in this area. And the same crew was also involved down in Quincy, Stoughton, Plainville, south of Boston. Now, we've identified them. They're back down in Florida. They're from Florida. They come up here. They rent a car at the airport, you know, legitimate business people. And, you know, fortunately, we didn't have a lot of losses during that time frame that we were able to identify who they were. There's warrants for them. But, you know, where they're targeting senior citizens, many times these people, this is all the money that they have. They're on a limited fixed income. And it's damaging to them, and there's really no recourse to get any money back, because once the people leave the house, it's very difficult to get any money back, even if you arrest them.
Absolutely. Yeah, my aunt, my elderly aunt, fell victim to that. But it was interesting. She was actually distracted, asked to step outside. We'll take a look at the fence line. But when she stepped outside and went to the backyard with the suspect, she locked her front door, and they didn't expect that.
Right.
So the second guy came to the front door, tried to get in, the door was locked. He went around to the front and demanded that she come and open that door, and then the neighbors saw what was going on, and they came over and they fled. Those guys fled. So this is very, very common. It's happening all the time.
Yeah.
You know, Chris, you alluded to your prior career as a police lieutenant in the town of Wilmington. You had many, many years here, an esteemed career in law enforcement. Have you seen an increase from your time in Wilmington PD to now with these types of criminal activities?
I don't know if we're seeing an increase in the amount of activity, but the fact the communication is much better among police agencies, banks, and anybody involved in this field. So now we're more aware of what's going on, not just regionally, like in the Greater Lowell area, the Merrimack Valley or Eastern Mass area, but we see the same people doing the same crimes all across the country. And there are websites out there that we have access to that we see these things, and we say, that guy that was in Nebraska last week was in Massachusetts this week. So, we're working much better, together collaboratively. Whether or not it's more, I can't really say, but it's continuous.
Sure, yeah.
What can people do if they are seeing these individuals at their doorstep?
Well, again, just keep in mind, the most important thing is everybody has 911, whether it be on their cell phone now or their home phone. If you think for a minute that you're being taken advantage of, even if you can't tell the police, if you can dial 911, let the phone hang, the police will show up at your house. And with the new technology with cell phones right now, same thing with 911, a lot of it's being directed right into the local police dispatch. If not, it'll go to the state police and get redirected to your local community. So just by dialing it, that alone gives the police an opportunity to start there. So if you're in the midst of being bamboozled for some of these scam artists, police may arrive while they're still there. And that really is everybody's best case scenario.
Absolutely.
And if there's, they're driving a vehicle, if you can get a license plate, even if they don't come to your home, they're probably going to your neighbor's house. So
exactly.
If you can call and let them know that this person driving this vehicle and license plate, they may be able to even track them down in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. Very true.
So we have to go on a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll come back and talk a little bit more about scams.
Right.
This program is proudly sponsored by Enterprise Bank, a full-service commercial institution serving 17 communities. Enterprise Bank helps create successful businesses, meaningful jobs, strong, vibrant communities, and opportunities and prosperity for our customers, shareholders, and employees. To speak to an Enterprise advisor, call 978-459-9000 or visit our website, enterprisebanking.com. Enterprise, an independent bank with community at its core. Member FDIC.
I want to welcome you back after our brief break. Prior to the break, we were talking about some of the scams that happen within your homes. So now we'll go outside, whether it be a restaurant, the supermarket, you're out grocery shopping. And I know sometimes, usually when I'm at the grocery store or at a restaurant, Panera, any local store, I might be in a rush. I'm trying to get things done so I can quickly head home. I have my pocketbook. Sometimes it's too big to carry, and it seems convenient to place it in the shopping cart. Chris, I know you have something to tell me about that.
Well, I mean, we've seen it, on an increase over the last 10 years or so. I mean, I've been following this for quite a while, and one of the most prominent locations across the country to be very careful of your pocketbook would be some of the eateries where people get up from their table to go get their meal. Panera Bread is one of them. I mean, it's not Panera Bread's problem, or it's not their fault, but we constantly see that if you do a Google search. You will see literally dozens, if not hundreds, of articles across the country. And what is happening is people place their order, and when they go up to get the order, they leave the pocketbook at the table, or somebody will slide up next to them, also with an intent to eat, or the parent intent to eat. They'll slide up close, and they will find a way to get into the pocketbook. It's just simply a pickpocketing scam. And as soon as the suspects in these cases get hold of that wallet or the credit cards, they're going to go to a Target, a Best Buy, an Apple store, and they will max out those credit cards for whatever they can get. And if there's 2 or 3 credit cards, all the better for them. And they will either buy electronics or they will buy gift cards. Most of these people, from what we've determined over the last 10 years, and again, we've got hundreds and hundreds of photos, many of them have been arrested. They're mostly out of South America. A large group is out of Chile. There are some people out of Peru that are running in the same group. They fly in. They do not cross the border, the southern border. Most cases, they either have visas or, in some cases, passports. And they stay in an area for about 4 or 5 days. They rifle whatever they can, and then they move 200, 300 miles where nobody's alert to them. And then, again, they go all over the country. And there's different groups across the country that do this. New York City is very active in proactive enforcement against these people, but they still come up here. They were just here within the last couple of weeks. Again, we get identities. Most of your people are wearing hats. Sometimes you can't tell. You get a good, what you think is a good photo, but you really can't identify them because there's certain aspects of their appearance that you can't tell. So that's the main one, especially at eateries. The other one is, you mentioned shopping carts. These people that you're targeting, mostly the elderly who are distracted. They're looking at their shopping list. And as you said, most women, and I notice it myself, their pocketbook is sitting right in front of them in the shopping carriage, in that child seat. And there are 2 ways to do this. Number one, they will distract you and they will try to get your attention. Does this mean this orange is 2 for $1, or is this $2.10 for the orange? And while that person is distracted, somebody's coming in from the other end, grabbing something out of their wallet. The other thing is they may knock over a shelf full of boxes or fruit. And then most of us, we try to be nice people. You might try to help somebody pick up a couple of dozen oranges. While you're doing that, watching your pocketbook. And this stuff happens, again, in our area, because I see it, if not every week, at least every couple of weeks. And I know it happens all over the country. And again, once that money's gone, if you don't become aware immediately that your pocketbook is gone, it doesn't take very long at all. We've had some success. The police agencies that do get those calls, they immediately flood some of those big box stores, and you start to look for the same trends of these people, what they look like, the way they dress. And we've had some luck, but not, in propriety.
And I bet it's very lucrative for these individuals to make these thefts and commit this crime, because, as you say, they go all over and they reach in and they get these gift cards and credit cards and probably checkbooks and various other things. And then before you know it, now you've really been victimized and you've lost a lot of money.
And it only takes minutes, and if they get gift cards, those are being transferred out, so they're almost impossible to trace. So if you get iTunes gift cards and you convert it to restaurant gift cards or Target or iTunes or something else, whatever the gift card might be, once it transfers from one company to another, you could spend weeks trying to chase down where it went.
One of the recommendations we have for our customers is limit the number of stuff that's in your wallet or in your pocketbook. So in the event something like that does happen, at least you don't have 5 credit cards. You know, limit. Do you really need to carry that many credit cards
Right.
with you?
Sure.
Don't carry your social security card
Right.
because now that information is in there. Checkbooks, maybe just grab a couple checks and just leave them if you really need to use them. And also setting up alerts on your debit cards, credit cards. If there is transactions that might be large dollar, your bank is calling you or your credit card company is calling you to verify. So hopefully some of those things also might help
Right.
If
with
nothing
those
else, put your
situations.
wallet at the bottom of your pocketbook.
Yeah.
You don't need it till you check out anyway, and it's going to make it more difficult for them.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we see it all the time.
Right.
The wallet's right there
Right
for
there
most,
on top.
most women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a situation over the weekend. I misplaced my wallet, and I just couldn't find it anywhere. So I called my credit cards, and I have 2 credit cards in my wallet, and I said, have you seen any activity on my credit card since last night? And all that was there was the dinner I had the night before at the restaurant. So I realized then and there that it was somewhere in my house, because if it had been stolen,
Right.
those credit cards would have been utilized immediately, because they
Correct.
go and they try to grab that as much as they can, as soon as they can, before the person knows the credit
Right.
card is missing. So I was very fortunate to be able to find my wallet eventually.
And also like pocketbooks leaving in the cars, right? I know if you're going to the
Oh,
gym
yeah.
to pick up your kid from the daycare or the park,
Yeah.
kids at the soccer game, and you know,
It's
you
a
leave
whole
everything
other
in
topic
there.
we could probably spend a
Yeah.
half hour on.
That's right.
Yeah.
But,
And that's our friends
Again.
with the felony land.
Felony
gang.
lane gang, right?
Yeah, in a way, I think we are making it easy for them to access this. So I think we have some responsibility to help stop this crime from happening by not keeping our pocketbooks out in the open, being attentive.
Right.
If you're trying to help someone, maybe grab the pocketbook with you underneath your arm and then go and try to assist them.
Yeah, sure. And you know, we've had some great conversation here, but I can't help but think of the jury duty scam, Chris. And tell me what you know about that and how people have been, you know, taking advantage
It
of it.
works much the same way as the IRS scam.
I gotcha.
In most cases, you're either going to get a cold call from somebody that has a script that they're going to go by. They get very good at it. Or it's going to be another automated call. And again, they're going to reach out to you and say, we can make this warrant go away for failure to attend jury duty, but you have to go to the store and buy a $100 gift card for, again, whether it be iTunes or Target or some store,
Sure.
and call us with the number of the gift card and call us with the PIN number on the back.
Right.
And as soon as you make that phone call, again, they transfer it onto something else.
Right. So I guess the point is, again, you're not going to get a phone call telling you that you've missed your jury duty. You are going to be receiving a letter.
Right.
It's going to be nothing over the phone that's going to, you know, cause you to be alarmed that's legitimate. That is
Anything
not
to
gonna
do
happen.
with gift cards over the phone,
Right.
hang up the phone.
Right.
You know, there's no legitimacy at all with it.
Correct. Yeah.
And, you know, there's all kinds of different angles, but as long as you know to hang up the phone, that's what you're looking for.
And you know, we get these robocalls all the time, right? I get them on my cell phone, I get them at home. And my response is, if I don't recognize that number, if that's someone I don't know is calling, I do not answer the phone at all.
Yeah.
I just let it ring.
And they will leave a voicemail if it is someone
Sometimes
that's
they do.
trying to
Right.
get
Yeah.
in touch with you, your doctor's office or
Oh,
whatever
yes.
it might be.
That's right.
You may not know the number. They'll
That's
leave a
right.
voicemail.
They'll leave a voicemail,
Yeah.
100% correct. And the old grandparent scam, we continue to see that.
Right.
Very unfortunate, taking advantage of people who love their grandchildren
Mm-hmm.
and want to help them, and then they lose money.
I think we talked about this last time we got together a couple of years ago. And, you know, you get a phone call, again, targeting the elderly. These people do a little bit of research into who they're trying to reach out to. And you'll hear a meek voice on the phone, either says, Graham or Grampy, I'm sorry. And, you know, if you do it all day long, you get very good at it. And they learn how to say, it's me. Well, who's this? You don't recognize my voice? Oh, is this Prima? Yeah, you didn't recognize my voice. Well, you sound like you have a cold. Yeah, I have a cold. I haven't felt good. And what they do is, I'm in trouble.
Right.
And again, these are completely manufactured people. The grandparent, in many cases, will say, is this you, Ken? Yes, it is. And then they ask you they say, I'm in trouble. Please don't tell my parents. What grandparent doesn't look out for the welfare of their grandchild?
Yeah.
I'm in trouble. My friend got arrested. He had drugs in the car. Or I was in an accident. Somebody got hurt, and now somebody got arrested for drunk driving. I need a lawyer. I need bail money. And we see upwards of $10,000 sometimes changing hands. Very seldom does money change hands, but I've seen cases where they tell you to stick $5,000 in a magazine, wrap it up, and send it to Florida. More often than not, though, they're doing the same thing we just talked about, gift cards, and you are directed to go, and if they even keep you on the phone, and they'll tell you to either go to the bank get money withdrawn, or you'll go into a store, use your credit cards, buy these gift cards, and then give us these, again, the gift card numbers and the PIN numbers on the backs of the cards. Simple, simple technology. They've all figured out a way to beat the system. And the thing is, they target the most vulnerable in society, the grandparents who are really concerned about the welfare of their grandchildren. So that's the one that really bothers me the most because,
Understandable.
I mean, if I get the call, my grandkids aren't old enough, you hang up the phone. But if somebody in their 70s,
Sure.
early, mid-60s, has
Absolutely.
grandchildren at that age,
Right.
18, 20 years old,
Sure.
Yeah.
you kind of go out of your way to try to go out,
Yeah.
do something for them.
I mean, these people prey on your emotions. They prey on fear. They prey on greed. They prey on love, right?
Yeah.
People say, "I'm in love with you," and you have this relationship online
Yeah.
with some person you don't know, but you're lonely and you fall for these things, and before you know it, you're sending the money.
Exactly.
And we have seen that on dozens of occasions, and it's really very sad.
I was going to say, if you see somebody, you meet a boyfriend who's on a offshore oil well somewhere in the Mediterranean or the Baltic Sea or something, it's a scam.
It's a
All
scam.
right, this person is not a legitimate person.
Yeah. And really what's kind of sad is that, I know we had some interaction recently with someone who was victimized, and we said, please, make sure you tell everybody that I'm not telling anybody because I am embarrassed.
Right.
I am ashamed.
Right.
And I'm only keeping this to myself, and only you will know about this.
Right. But I'm hoping that shows like this and having people like you, Chris, come and talk about this. We want to take the stigma away from
Right.
this whole I fell victim.
That's right.
Because it's happening to people of all ages, professionals. I know one of my nieces fell for the IRS scam, and she's a very smart young woman. I thought she would have quickly picked up on it, but she was intimidated. She was scared and concerned and wanted to take care of that, and she almost went to the bank to withdraw the money and then a friend came and stopped her from doing it.
Right.
So I think it's just taking time to think through situations, whether it's a call on the phone that your grandson's been arrested, or the IRS, or the jury duty. Just taking a moment to say, okay, take the information, hang up the phone, and then talk to someone or think this through.
Right.
I think
Right.
just kind of second thinking,
Yeah.
processing that information helps.
And one other thing I just mentioned is a lot of people feel guilty. They don't want to press charges against somebody, give them a criminal record.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, they're going to target somebody else,
they're
and they're going to take advantage of them
They're
too.
going to continue after
know.
they get locked up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
You know that.
So,
You know that.
And I'm seeing one of the common themes really is those gift cards, the iTunes, the Google Play, anything that has to do with that. I just wanted you to kind of stress this a little bit more about
yeah, just
what are the problems with
stay
that.
away from it, because it's almost impossible to trace. And if you would get duped into providing, as soon as you provide that, again, the number of the card and the 12 or 16-digit number on the back of the card, once you do that, it's gone.
Seconds,
They're
right?
they're sending it to Russia, they're sending it to China, and we see it on the other end, on the retail fraud side, because they're using smartphones and things to buy
Right.
$5,000 worth of electronics. And again, unless you are there when it happens, it's very, very difficult.
Sure. And I'm glad you brought this up, because my wife has asked me for gift cards. Now I know I'm never going to give her one, because it's obviously a scam. So
Yeah.
I won't fall for that trick.
All right. So this was a great conversation, and I really hope our viewers today can take something, share with their family and friends. This show, it will be on YouTube, so we'll share it through multiple ways to really get this information out there, because one of the things, Ken, that we always say is knowledge is
Power.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
good.
So Chris, thank you for
Thank you,
coming on
Prima.
our
Thanks for
show.
having me with
Hopefully
me.
we'll
Thank
have
you,
you back again.
Absolutely.
Enjoyed it.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for tuning into Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. This is Prima Nagathan and Ken LaValle signing off.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Well, that was very